All right, now let's talk about shadows. In CSS, we can easily add shadows around elements using the box shadow property. Here we have to supply a few values. The first value is the horizontal distance of the shadow to the element. If you use a positive value here, this will move the shadow to right. And if you use a negative value, this will move the shadow to left. You will see that in a second. So let's go with 10 pixels. The second value is the vertical distance of the shadow to the element. Once again, if you use a positive value, this will move the shadow down. And if you use a negative value, this will move the shadow up. So before going any further, let's save the changes and see what we get. So here it is. Look, we have moved the shadow 10 pixels right and 10 pixels down. Now, if we supply a negative value here, this will move the shadow 10 pixels left. Take a look. So our shadow moved 10 pixels to the left of the box. So let's go with 10 pixels and 10 pixels. Now, if you want to change the color, we can pass that here. We can say gray. And once again, we can use a hexadecimal color, an RGB color, and so on. So now we get a gray shadow. Now, what if you want to make this shadow a little bit softer? Here we can supply a third value to determine how much we want to soften or blur the shadow. Let's go with 10 pixels. Look, our shadow is softer. Let's go with a higher value. Let's say 30 pixels. It's even softer. There's just one tiny problem. Because we moved the shadow 10 pixels right and 10 pixels down, it's not covering the top and left side of the box. So let me show you a cool trick here. If you want to have a very soft shadow, it is best to put the shadow right below the element. So we're not going to supply a horizontal and a vertical distance. We're going to pass 0 and 0. This will place the shadow right under the box. And with this blur, we'll see a very nice effect around the box. Take a look. Here it is. So this is how we can add shadows to elements. But we can also add shadows to our text. So here in index.html, let's add a heading inside this box. Heading. We get a black heading. First, I want to change the color of the heading to white because typically white text looks better on blue background. So let's go to our style sheet and define a rule for h1 elements. Here we're going to set the color to white. Now, using the text shadow property, we can add a shadow to this heading. The values that we should pass here are exactly the same values that we have for the box shadow property. So we can move the shadow 3 pixels right, 3 pixels down, and make it 5 pixels soft, and set the color to, let's say, gray. Now take a look. Here's what we get. Let me zoom in. I want to show you a problem with this shadow. This gray shadow is not mixing properly with the blue background. It's kind of off. Do you see that? Let me show you a cool trick. So instead of passing an explicit color like gray, we're going to use a semi-transparent black. So we use the RGBA function. Now we pass 0, 0, and 0 to represent the pure black. Now using the fourth value, we can specify the transparency. 0 means completely transparent, and 1 means completely opaque. For this demo, I'm going to go with, let's say, 0.2. So this is a semi-transparent black. Now take a look. See, the shadow is beautifully blending with the blue background. And that means if we change the color of the background, the shadow will continue to blend properly. So let's set the background to gold. Take a look. Our shadow is still blending with the background. We can go with a different color like coral. Look, it's always working. So this is one of those cases where you may want to use an RGBA color. That's why earlier I told you that there's no right or wrong when it comes to representing colors. Sometimes a hexadecimal value makes sense, other times an RGBA color.